Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, a major blast on the border with Syria and Iraq as an Iranian military convoy targeted by unknown aircraft. Meantime, major diplomatic advancements between Israel and her neighbors on the sidelines of the COP27 climate conference in Egypt. And finally, a one-of-a-kind discovery in Tel Lachish, providing rare insights into the evolution of language and literacy in the Middle East. Palestinian terrorists opening fire early Wednesday morning at security personnel, Jewish worshippers, local government officials, and Knesset members who were visiting Joseph's tomb in Shechem or Nablus. The Holy Tomb in Judea and Samaria, aka the West Bank, is a frequent target for attacks. And among the MKs touring the tomb, 8 right-wing lawmakers, including from incoming Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party, as well as from the Shas, Otzma Yehudit, and the religious Zionism factions. The terrorists live fire targeting Israeli soldiers who had secured the area. The soldiers returning fire, killing one of the shooters, who was later identified as a 15-year-old militant from the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade. No Israeli visitors or security personnel were reportedly injured. Still, following the assault, Regional Council Chief Yossi Dagan, also present during the attack, repeating demands that the IDF station a full-time protective detail at the tomb, as directed by what he calls the failed Oslo agreements. Meantime, in addition to securing the tomb, the IDF reportedly also operating in various towns across Judea and Samaria overnight, including in Shechem or Nablus, Bethlehem, and Nabi Saleh. A number of terror suspects and illegal weapons apprehended. Mysterious explosions reported on the border between Iraq and Syria Tuesday night as unidentified aircraft, believed to be American drones and helicopters, targeting a convoy of Iranian militia and fuel tanker trucks. Arabic media reporting a series of airstrikes late Tuesday night. Mysterious explosions reported on the border between Iraq and Syria as unidentified aircraft targeting sites belonging to Iran-affiliated groups in the area, including a convoy of Iranian militia and fuel tanker trucks, and some 15 tankers carrying Iranian gasoline en route to Lebanon attacked. At least 25 Iran-affiliated militants reportedly killed, 10 more injured. Initially, the attack believed to be carried out by American drones and helicopters, as claimed by Iran's state TV, though the media company Press TV not providing any evidence for that claim. That said, the United States indeed conducting such airstrikes in the area in the recent past, including in August. The U.S. military striking Iran-backed militia in the Deir al-Zur region as a supposed message to Iran following the Iranians' targeting of American troops earlier that month and several more times throughout the year. Responding to allegations, meantime, senior U.S. officials reportedly confirming the airstrikes, but saying that the U.S. was not involved. Rather, the unnamed official alleging that the strikes conducted by an unidentified party, now assumed to be Israel. Turning now to the United States midterm elections, the race currently still too close to call, as Republicans and Democrats are neck and neck for control of both houses of Congress. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz with the latest.
Hours after polls are closed, the Democrats and Republicans remain in a struggle to control both houses of Congress. There were apparently some modest gains for Republicans in the House of Representatives, but control of the Senate is a nail-biter and will likely not be decided until all the votes are counted. It could also come down to a runoff in Georgia 2 weeks from now. Traditionally, the party of the president loses ground in the midterms, but there has not been a Republican wave this time. They have already lost 1 Senate seat in Pennsylvania and will need to flip 2 between the states of Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia in order to take control of that chamber.
So it is entirely possible that we do not have a full picture of the numbers for a number of days. And that is a good thing. It doesn't mean that something's wrong. It means that something is right. It means we're taking a moment to count every ballot.
In New York, Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul and Jewish Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer both scored victories over their Republican challengers. Hochul went against Lee Zeldin, a Jewish congressman from Long Island. Zeldin made it close, with a great deal of crossover vote in the Jewish community. In Florida, potential presidential candidate Ron DeSantis was easily re-elected governor. The re-election sets DeSantis up for a possible presidential run in 2024. That likelihood has already drawn the ire of Republican former President Donald Trump. Trump has nicknamed him Ron DeSanctimonious. Trump said he would make a major announcement next Tuesday when he is likely expected to declare his presidential candidacy.
Joining me now with more on the United States midterm elections, particularly from the Israeli perspective, former Israeli diplomat to the United States, Yoram Ettinger. Yoram, thank you very much for being with us. Now, so far, it appears as though the GOP will be taking a slim majority over the Democrats in the Senate and a slightly more commanding lead in the House. It doesn't quite appear, though, to be the blowout that the Republicans were expecting. Are you surprised?
I am surprised, just like all pollsters, but let's make it clear. Whether it's a slim majority or a handsome majority, majority means that all chairmanships of all committees and all subcommittees will be Republicans. And that means for Israel, for instance, that the chairmanship of the full appropriations committee will shift from mildly critical of Israel Chairwoman De Lauro to very, very staunch pro-Israel Congresswoman from Fort Worth, Texas, Kay Granger. It means that the chairmanship of Foreign Affairs Committee in the House will shift from mildly pro-Israel Gregory Meek to very, very staunchly pro-Israel Mike McCall from Texas. And the same goes for the chairmanship of the very vital two very essential appropriations subcommittee, the subcommittee which oversees foreign aid and the subcommittee which oversees defense cooperation between U.S. and Israel. The current chairwomen of those two subcommittees are two of the hottest anti-Israel legislators on Capitol Hill. The two Republicans who are going to become chairperson of those two vital subcommittees are very, very pro-Israel, and the same goes for Armed Services Committee in the House, which will shift from a mildly critical legislator of Israel to staunchly pro-Israel, and the chairmanship of the Intelligence Committee. The bottom line is that we're talking about a shift from pretty negative or mildly negative on Israel to very positive on Israel. And major point to clarify here, we're talking about not only the strongest legislature in the world, both chambers of US Congress, we're talking about a co-equal, co-determining branch of the American government, which has proven its capabilities on many occasions to stop presidential initiative, to amend presidential initiative, to oversee presidential initiatives, and to initiate its own initiatives, whether it is foreign policy or national security, and on many occasions. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so Yoram, I wanted to ask you about whether or not the Jewish vote in the United States actually reflects some of these outcomes, because by and large, the Jews have mostly voted Democratic historically in the United States. But in this last election, it seems that more and more are also shifting to the right, like in New York's Haredi population. Is that emblematic of the vote across the United States, or is that really just in pockets?
I haven't noticed a significant shift in Jewish vote. Jewish vote since, in fact, 1948 has never considered Israel to be a top priority. Israel has always been transcended by domestic issues such as appointments to the US Supreme Court, immigration, welfare, economy, health, education, etc. The shift which took place already in the 2020 election and now has been reinforced, has been a shift by the Latin or Hispanic constituents from a very secure bloc for the Democrats to a segment of the population which shifts gradually towards Republicans. A slighter shift has also taken place as far as the Afro-American community. But as far as Jewish vote, I haven't noticed that. But again, the main thing is not the Jewish vote in the US. The main thing, as far as I'm concerned, out of this election, the midterm election, is the realignment on the House side, possibly, although slim chance, also in the Senate.
All right. Now, Yoav Mettinger, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, returning to Egypt for the COP27 World Environment Summit now. Several diplomatic breakthroughs for Israel reportedly coming from the sidelines in Sharm el-Sheikh, including an energy deal with Jordan and a joint pledge with Arab states to tackle regional climate change challenges. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz reporting.
A joint pledge emerged from Sharm following an unprecedented meeting of leaders from throughout the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East. Israel, Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan, Cyprus, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, the Emirates, Iraq, Kuwait, and the Palestinian Authority were in the same room and came to agreement. The meeting followed an initiative by the Cyprus Institute, which has gathered regional scientific climate data on which to base policy. Multinational task forces included about 220 scientists, 12 of them from Israel, and they mapped out the effects of climate change in the region and pointed where it was needed. Meanwhile, President Isaac Herzog's brief chat with the Tunisian Prime Minister drew criticism for her at home. The two leaders were seen smiling while exchanging a few words at a photo op. Najla Boudin is the first female prime minister in the Arab world. Tunisia does not have diplomatic relations with Israel. Headlines in the Arab media speculated that Tunisia could become the latest Arab country to normalize ties with the Jewish state. A Jordanian official has spoken out about the Memorandum of Understanding signed with Israel in a water for energy deal.
وهذه أيضا مذكرة التفاهم ما تنص عليه أن هنالك مشروعين متقابلين الطاقة مقابل المياه وبالتالي هنالك كمية 200 مليون متر مكعب من المياه يتم تزويد الأردن بها مقابل تزويد الجهات الأخرى تقريبا 600 ميجاوات من الطاقة.
The idea, first announced a year ago, is for Jordan to build a 600-megawatt solar generating capacity that would be exported to Israel. In return, Israel would provide water-scarce Jordan with 200 million cubic meters of desalinated water. This will be the first such cooperation between the two countries.
Now, in a shocking development, North Korea reportedly hacking an Israeli company that deals with cryptocurrency in an apparent hope of stealing digital coin to finance its nuclear program in Pyongyang. According to Israeli media, N12, the hacking attempt was carried out by North Korean actors posing as the Israeli crypto company's Japanese supplier. And it was detected by Israeli cybersecurity firm Confidas, which managed to halt the electronic break-in in its tracks. But in apparently lucky catch, Confidas explaining that the hacking methods were long-term, sophisticated, and in some cases, not seen before. Confidas CEO Ram Levy saying that these attacks don't happen overnight, and normally they operate along a pattern, starting with gaining the target's trust before sending malicious files that can corrupt the target's network. The North Koreans, on the other hand, simply spying, stealing money, and disappearing, all with little to no interaction opposite the target. That said, North Korea's use of hackers to penetrate financial institutions is well documented. They were behind the theft of as much as $100 million worth of cryptocurrency from a company in June. And according to The Guardian, it was part of the Iranian regime's attempts to secure funding for its nuclear and ballistic missiles program. Now, beware the lake. A new health ministry report raising red flags around the famous Kinneret, or the Sea of Galilee. This as some 29 Israelis reportedly hospitalized in recent weeks with serious eye infections that could, in some cases, permanently impair the victim's vision. Apparently, a potential parasite named as the culprit, though as of yet, the parasite's physical presence has not definitively been proven. What we do know, thanks to ophthalmologists' reports, is that several bathers hospitalized with severe corneal infections, cornea scarring, and in some more serious cases, greater damage to the whole eye. And not all of the bathers are coming from the same Galilee shore either. We also know that the more complex manifestations of this condition requiring specially formulated medical intervention. Therefore, early detection is paramount. Additionally, the Health Ministry is launching an epidemiological investigation and temporarily concluding that all would-be seafarers in the Kinneret swim with goggles and avoid direct eye contact with the water. Now, every year since 2013, hundreds of thousands of Jews around the world joining together for a special spiritual mission dubbed the Shabbat Project. And this year, over 2,500 Shabbat Project events are planned with more than 1 million global participants. Joining me with more is founder of the Shabbat Project and Chief Rabbi of South Africa, Rabbi Dr. Warren Goldstein. Rabbi, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. So lovely to be with you.
So tell me what exactly the Shabbat Project involves and what it's all about.
Yeah, well, it's all, as you said, it was started in 2013. It started in South Africa, originally just for the South African Jewish community. And it was a call for the entire community to keep one Shabbat together in a spirit of unity, to celebrate, to appreciate what the gift of Shabbat is to Jewish unity, to Jewish identity, and to the Jewish future. And it captured the hearts of people around the world, and it spread in a people's movement, which has now spread to more than 1,500 cities and 100 countries all around the world. And really what it is Jews all around in every part of the world keeping this one Shabbat, but coming together in a spirit of unity in tremendous events which are happening, as you mentioned, more than 2,500 events all over the world, in Israel, in North America, of course, in Europe, South Africa, Australia, all over the world. And there's a tremendous sense of Jews saying, listen, we want to unite and we want to define ourselves by our values and our vision, instead of saying, well, you know, there's a rise in anti-Semitism and therefore we are defined by the hatred of others. We want to say we want to come together and to rally together as Jews, not because there's a crisis, not because we're in danger, but because we are celebrating what it is to be a Jew. And the vision of the Shabbat Project is saying at the heart of Jewish identity is Shabbat. It is the key to rejuvenating Jewish families and Jewish communities. And I think that's why there's been such a natural reception for it. People are thirsting. They are looking for that sense of connection around the Shabbat table. And, you know, there's some heartwarming stories from all over the world.
Well, so again, you know, maybe if you can tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to start this project. Did you see a particular need in your community in South Africa, or did it start maybe more humbly of just, I want to do something nice for the community?
No, I saw a need, and I think that, you know, this is the powerful thing about Shabbat. It really has many of the answers of some of the greatest challenges that we face. On an individual basis, I think Shabbat has a compelling message for the times that we live in, where there's a complete sense of distraction and fragmentation. You know, where there's never a moment of life when a person is truly off. Families are feeling the pressure. There's rising anxiety, and Shabbat has a way of pulling us together when we do it in this immersive experience. The sense of, you know, switching off cell phones, the sense of coming together, putting away car keys, coming together as a family around the Shabbat table. There is something so powerful about the immersive magic of that. But also Jewish communities, and I think, you know, this is something that I saw in my own community, but I've seen it all around the world. There's a sense that Jewish communities are searching for unity, searching for a way to bond with each other and to find each other. And that's why I think there's been such a resonance for it, a natural resonance, a resonance. Sometimes you find in a project that you have to push it and try and convince people and cajole them, but actually this moves in the other way. Like, for example, this year in Israel, the project is larger than it has ever been. I mean, you know, there are more than 100 municipalities involved. There are hundreds of thousands of children in the Mamlachti schools involved in the project. The youth movements involved in the project. There's really a sense of saying, you know, at the end of the day, we are Jews, and there may have been a divisive election in Israel, a divisive elections in the United States, but we are saying we will not be defined by the politics of our times. We will be defined by our values and who we are, and at the heart of those values is Shabbat. So I think because of all those reasons, it has this very powerful natural resonance with people, and therefore, in a sense, it is an answer to many of the challenges that we face individually, communally, as families. And I think that's why people are searching for it. I think there's a real search for Shabbat itself.
So what are some of the most unique locations that are hosting events this year? I know, of course, you mentioned that in Israel, it's bigger than ever before, but Israel, sort of, you could think of it as a low-hanging fruit when you're talking about a global movement.
Yes, certainly. But look, firstly, I would say in Israel that Shabbat traditionally has been the area of like a cultural war in Israel. So I think the fact that it's proving that Shabbat can be a source of unity in Israeli society and not a source of divisiveness, that I think is perhaps noteworthy in the Israeli context. But if one's looking globally, what starts to become really interesting from a global point of view is when one considers, let's say, France. There's a tremendous activity and action in France, a beautiful and heartwarming story in Strasbourg. Of course, it's all over France, in Paris, Marseille, Nice, all over France. But in Strasbourg, there's a very heartwarming story of the community in Strasbourg reaching out to a group of young Ukrainian Jews, refugees who are kind of staying in refugee quarters in Germany and Switzerland, inviting them to spend the Shabbat of the Shabbat Project in Strasbourg as the guests of the community, paying for them to come, looking after them, hosting them, and giving them a gift of Jewish solidarity. So that's, it's a heartwarming story. That also, Morocco, the Jewish community in Morocco is getting involved for the first time. And then you go all the way to San Diego, where there's an established Jewish community, but there are more than 180 events across, the San Diego Jewish community, and it's a community of tremendous diversity, and so what I found always amazing about this is that whether you in San Diego, Morocco, Strasbourg, Johannesburg, London, Tel Aviv, or Beersheba, there is a commonality and a common Jewish spirit. And it reminds us that we can transcend all of these things that divide us, which are actually superficial when we cut to the essence of who we truly are. And if people want to join in, there's still time. They can go straight on to our website, the shabbatproject.org, and get all the details. And this is a people's movement. It's not an organization, it's a movement. So come and join the movement, and let's change the world together.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Now, an incredible discovery now unveiled for the first time ever in Israel, a complete sentence written in ancient Canaanite found at the dig site in Tel Lachish. The discovery made by a joint team of Israeli and U.S. researchers from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and the Southern Adventist University, and the inscription, a sentiment that is all too familiar despite its ancient origins. It's a spell to eradicate head lice, carved into the face of a small double-sided ivory comb dating back to around 1700 BCE, or some 3,700 years ago. In just 17 ancient characters, the inscription reading, "May this ivory tusk root out the lice of the hair and the beard." And it seems to have been a useful spell, with the remains of a head louse nymph still stuck between the teeth of the comb. But far beyond the function of the message, the inscription described as a landmark in the history of the human ability to write, as it serves as direct evidence for the use of the alphabet in daily activities at the time and region. In fact, the quality of the craftsmanship also pointing to the literacy of lay people in the region, as the scribe seems to have etched the text in upside-down rows as he looked for blank space. Further, the letters aren't perfectly aligned, and they get smaller and smaller until the last letter etched is in a row of its own, as the writer apparently ran out of space. Also, according to experts, the script is written in the style that characterizes the very earliest stages of the Canaanite alphabet's development, nearly 200 years after the oldest Canaanite inscriptions found in the Sinai, and nearly all other discoveries of Canaanite inscriptions in places like Syria and Egypt appear in a different script. Canaanite is referring to a group of ancient Semitic languages, the only living descendant of which being Hebrew, which was revived as a spoken language in the 19th and 20th centuries. Today, it is the official language in Israel. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Cloudy skies and light showers are expected overhead tonight, with lows this evening dropping to around 12 degrees Celsius or 54 Fahrenheit. And then tomorrow, cloudy skies again persisting, along with cooler top temperatures of 23 degrees Celsius or 74 Fahrenheit. That's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all of your devices, check out our ILTV channels on YouTube, Facebook, and on Telegram. And subscribe to our ILTV newsletter. I'm Aaron Porras. Be well. Thank you so much for watching.